I'll be speaking with Jeff Halper, the coordinating director of ICAD, the Israeli Committee Against House Demolitions. Jeff was born in the U.S. but moved to Israel decades ago and is a citizen. He's author of An Israeli in Palestine, Resisting Dispossession, Redeeming Israel. And he's appeared in the documentary film A Roadmap to Apartheid. He's currently on tour of the Northeast USA and will speak 4 times in coming days in Connecticut. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We haven't talked since our interview in your Jerusalem office in 2007. So what's the latest about housing demolitions? Anything better or worse?
Well, it's always worse.
Mm-hmm.
The house demolition issue is, our policy is a constant for Israel. No matter what the negotiations are, no matter how sensitive things are, house demolitions are a constant. So it's a constant process of ethnic cleansing, displacement, what we call Judaizing the land of Israel.
When you say we,
and
you mean
so
the
it's
government?
not something that's going to end anytime soon.
When you say we, you mean the Israeli government or a slang from the activists?
I mean the Israeli government, I think. You know, Israeli, I guess I'm speaking in a collective voice of Israelis that I don't really identify with.
Yeah. So it goes on and on. I mean, what's the scale? We're talking about tens of thousands?
Yeah, we're talking about, now we're up to about 30,000 homes and livelihood structures that have been demolished in the occupied territory since 1967.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about a huge displacement of probably more than 100,000 people. And not only that, but of course house demolitions continues apace inside Israel as well. It isn't only a phenomenon of the occupation. El Arakib is a famous Bedouin village, town, encampment in the Negev of Israeli citizens, Arab Israeli citizens.
Mm-hmm.
It's been demolished now. It just was demolished again this week for the 64th time.
Say that number again? Say that number again?
64 times.
Wow.
It's been demolished. The entire village. And of course, it continues in all what are called the unrecognized villages, Palestinian villages inside Israel, in the cities in Israel. So house demolitions continues to be, really from 1947 on until today, a constant on the Israeli political scene.
And when a house is demolished, there's a fee that people pay and a fine. Is that right?
Sometimes, often, yeah, people pay a fine, and not a little fine. I'm talking about $15,000 or $20,000 that they pay over years and years and years. Plus, in some cases, they even pay for the demolition of their home. So it's a very cruel, violent policy that Israel has, and again, it's intended to displace the Palestinians and, if possible, get them out of the country.
Now, is this, one of the reasons for your committee, obviously, is to get this better known. Is there progress on that front?
For the years, we've raised the house demolition issue on the political map. It's mentioned a lot in negotiations and so on. We haven't ended it, like I've said, but I think we've raised it onto the map. But, for us, the house demolition issue is a vehicle for getting people to see how the occupation works, to expose Israel's intentions on the ground, and in the end, to end the occupation. We don't want to only end the house demolition policy.
Sure.
We want to end the entire occupation and achieve a just peace. So for us, it's a vehicle, the house demolition issue.
And you've had these programs where people come and rebuild homes, and that's a way to make a political point.
That's right. First of all, our resistance is physical. We get in front of bulldozers. If we can, we resist the demolition of Palestinian homes in the first place. But also we rebuild homes. We've rebuilt 187 homes over the past 13, 14 years as political acts of resistance. That's important to emphasize, not humanitarian.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't good Israelis going to help poor Palestinians, but it's a partnership of Israelis, Palestinians, and international volunteers to come to rebuild homes and as political acts of resistance to the occupation.
Right, now you mentioned the Bedouins in that one place that was torn down and rebuilt 65 times. Now, what about, I'm forgetting the name of the plan, but Prosser, something like that. And that's been stalled because of international protest. Is that right?
Yeah, the Proverb plan.
Mm.
Yeah, that's the plan around El Araqib and the other communities. There's about 60,000 Bedouins in the Negev Desert that Israel's trying to displace and move them from their encampments. You know, Bedouins live in encampments. They try to be nomadic if they can. They're agricultural, rural people. And the idea is to put them into permanent townships with no infrastructure, no industry, no jobs, a bus maybe once a day that goes in the morning into Beersheba where they can work as casual laborers, and then a bus in the evening back. Pretty dismal places. Israel's already built 7 of these townships for Bedouins, and is trying to move the rest, but there was a lot of resistance, and so far, I mean, the plan is still actionable, but so far, we've managed to prevent it.
Mm. Now, we speak a month or so after the failure of the so-called Kerry Peace Initiative. Did you pay attention to those talks?
No, I think the talks are very important.
Mm-hmm.
They're important, I think, for 2 reasons. Everybody knew they were going to fail. I mean, Kerry had to have known that they were going to fail as well. And just to make sure, he took failed negotiators with him, like Martin Indyk and the old Oslo people. But the good news is that with the failure of the talks, finally, we're at the end of the 2-state solution. We can clear the air. Everybody, I think, will have to admit and acknowledge that the 2-state solution is gone. And now we can begin to get on to really resolving the conflict in a more just sort of a way. And I'm thinking in terms of beginning to formulate more of a 1-state solution.
Well, I want to contradict you. I mean, there's one prominent speaker in the U.S., Norman Finkelstein, who at the height of these talks, warned everybody the U.S. and the Israeli leaders were going to force the PA to make an agreement, a terrible settlement, and we had to immediately coalesce around a 2-state position and what he said was international law.
Yeah. It's a strange position that Norman's taken. I was just with him in Oxford a couple of weeks ago. We were on Al Jazeera together, and he presented that idea. I think, I don't know why Norman got into that state of mind. I mean, he also says he doesn't think it'll happen, the 2-state solution. But he says it's the only solution possible. There's I think of a kind of a hidden Zionist agenda, to tell you the truth, because the whole idea that if Palestinians have to get self-determination, so do Israeli Jews, which is true, but that doesn't necessarily mean in 2 separate states. You could have a binational state. There are peoples, I mean, the Basques in Spain, the Scots in the UK, the Welsh, there's other people that have a modicum, enough or not enough of self-determination within a single state environment, the Maori in Australia, in New Zealand, and so on. So I think, to say this is based in international law and self-determination is true, but that doesn't mean a 2-state solution. He somehow has made this kind of a conclusion that the 2-state solution is the only legal solution, and I don't think that's true at all.
Now, we received news a few days ago that billionaire Bill Gates had pulled out all his money from a firm that built Israeli prisons.
That's right, G4S.
Big win for the BDS movement. What do you think of BDS?
No, we've always supported BDS. ICAD, my organization, was the first Israeli organization to endorse BDS. We think it's a very important way that the people, civil society, can begin to pressure governments to do what they should be doing anyway. So BDS is very important. It was important in the anti-apartheid struggle and other struggles. I have some criticism of our targeting. I'm not sure we're targeting exactly the right things. TIAA, CREF, the insurance company, and SodaStream. I think we should be targeting military targets. Israel's involvement with American police forces, for example, with the American military. Every community in the United States has an Israeli presence somewhere. And also, I think in terms of in general, in terms of the involvement, I guess what I'm trying to say is that the occupation isn't far away, but the occupation is in your own community. So what I'm trying to urge people to do is look in your own community, in your universities, in your police forces, in your local industries, and see where there's an Israeli presence, because in a sense the occupation isn't that far away. It's right in your backyard. So I think those are the kinds of things. Plus, of course, sports boycotts. Israel just won the European Basketball Championship in Milan, in Italy. I mean, there's hundreds of activist groups in Italy. Why they didn't mobilize against Israel's participation? I mean, Israel's not even in Europe. You see, in other words, I don't think we're fast enough on our feet. And I don't think we're taking really the right political targets. But certainly BDS is a movement and is something that we support.
Well, there's a lot more to talk about, and I hope everybody will turn out to some of your talks and get into you with it in more detail. Thanks so much for this interview.
I'm looking forward to seeing all you in Connecticut.
All right.
Thanks, Stan.
And thanks everybody for listening. This is Stan Heller for The Struggle.